Okay, we're ready to start. Tonight is a workshop. It's more informal than usual. And what we're going to do is we're going to listen to a presentation from a potential landowner here that is making an acquisition and tell us a little bit about that project. This is one step of a multi-step process. There are no votes tonight. We're not taking any votes tonight. The idea is to have the presentation, the council to ask some general questions, and then open up to the public to ask some general questions also. And then at some point in the future, we'll come back and we'll go through having the staff give us their comments and doing things as it's normal in this type of scenario. Mr. Attorney, can you walk us through some of those steps so that everyone's on board?
Sure. Good evening. I think that was a good overview. Tonight will be the zoning workshop review pursuant to our code, section 30-73 of our code. This is the first time that actually the village is doing it. This was something that was adopted recently by the village as a process to create more public participation in the zoning process. As the mayor said, I think there'll be a presentation by the applicant, and then I presume public comment, and then the council will discuss. And then after that, the development review process will proceed throughout the summer, and obviously there'll be plenty of public notice and of those times and dates. So,
okay. With that, Mr. Martin, if you want to introduce some of the people that you have here and let us know when you're ready to go.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Mayor, and thank you, Council, and thank you, community. My name's David Martin. I'm the CEO at Terra. I'm here with an amazing team of professionals, starting with Jackie and Carlos Tuzé. They're the architects for the proposed project. We have an amazing Raymond Jungles here from our landscape architect. We have Raquel from Kimley Horn, our traffic consultant and planner. And we also have Hernando Navas here from Schwepke Shiskin, that's dealing with all the civil infrastructure and stormwater management infrastructure. When I arrived to think about this property and think about developing in Key Biscayne, I just want to say, what an honor and privilege it is to be able to work in this community. I see a community that has a lot of passion and pride in what it's about and its DNA, and I've met some amazing people, and I still have a lot more to meet, and I hope that Key Biscayne can see that our project is something that is a positive asset to the community, and something that everyone can be proud of. And so, today, one of the big things when we think about development is always impacts. And, for us, one of the big themes for us on this project is we're trying to create a very low impact project. Let me just turn off this. Our goal is to create a very low impact project, a project that could be a responsible neighbor to its residents in Holiday Colony, residents in Oceania, residents in Key Colony, and for that matter, residents throughout Key Biscayne. And so, our project's also hopefully going to generate a significant amount of new revenue from a tax-based point of view, and also, really be an iconic architecture, an example for the type of construction and design that we could see hopefully in our coastal communities. So I just want you all to know that we have an amazing team of professionals that we've hired, and I really just want to start by saying thank you. And with that, maybe Jackie Tuzé, who's the leader, done amazing projects from the Apple stores to amazing homes and residential buildings, and someone that really understands our culture, our DNA of the local community, and and really trying to develop something that's really tropical modern, which is kind of the thesis for the overall design. So hopefully, Jackie, you could kind of share a few words. Thank you.
Well, the site, I think, doesn't need any introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie, and I'm honored to be here. And we're fully aware of what an amazing opportunity and a privilege and an honor it is to work in this community and on this site in particular, which is one of the last under sort of smaller scale development sites left to develop. And we were really, our studio prides itself in paying attention to local culture, context, place, and history. And we try to design something for this project, hopefully that will reflect on what we feel that is. And we're very much open to learning and listening to what you guys think about it, and hopefully designing something that the community will be embracing and proud of. The property is 301 Ocean Drive. It's at the end of Sonesta Drive. It's currently occupied by a low-rise hotel and a pool. And our initial read on this was we wanted to do a project that is basically giving most of the site to nature and to canopy and tree and bring down the temperature, and design of floating houses in the sky, low density, low impact development that is commensurate with the rest of the development of the island, which is, you know, luxurious but also in high end and well designed and in its nature. This is a site plan as we're developing it. You can see the tower location is in the height is concentrated to the south a little bit, and then at the north we step it down, reflecting the massing to try to kind of fit it in a way that works with both adjacent neighbors. We're trying to design this project to be a good neighbor to both properties on either side. To the north we have a lower density key colony, which is a stepping down massing, and so that north volume is the lowest massing, because we also felt that as you were driving down Sonesta Drive, you're going to be seeing that for the longest time. So we wanted to try to create the density in the lowest density and the lowest height in that area. And the rest of the FAR and the rest of the area is located in the center of the site. And we also step back some of the massing to try to avoid impacting Oceana as much as possible on the corner. So we are trying to design this building not to be a massive block that sits squarely on the site, but, and I can go into it in my presentation, but this is just the overall. I'm going to go quickly through this, and then I'm happy to take questions, but we do have a lot of slides, and I want to give you an opportunity. This is supposed to be a workshop, so rather than going through all of it, but it's all on the slide. The total proposed square feet is 291 square feet, 291,000 square feet, and of that, 240,000 is residential, and the rest is going to be for amenities for this project. We are contemplating. The height is exactly the height that's allowed by code, which is 150 feet. One of the asks of the project, which is a very important ask, and I should mention, in addition to being an architect, I am a resiliency nerd, and I very much am, because I serve on the MRED, University of Miami Resiliency Committee. I'm a co-chair. This month I'm authoring an article in the ULI about coastal resiliency, about how to design for the future. And so one of the small asks that we're asking is that we would totally take the 150 feet that's allowed, but we would like to build it a little bit higher, 3 feet higher than the BFE that's allowed right now, and call it the design flood elevation. And the reason is that we feel that in the future, insurance companies and the codes are changing. City of Miami and City of Miami Beach have already allowed for freeboard up to 5 feet. We're asking for 3. And our building and our heights are not any higher. It's just that we're trying to start a little bit higher so that when the code changes, we're not building a building that's obsolete. It's really important, if we're going to be resilient, if we're going to talk about that, the number one thing everybody agrees with, besides location, is elevation. So when we're asking for the elevation, I just want to be clear that it's not benefiting the units. We're not getting taller units. We're not getting a taller building. All we're asking is to do the right thing for the project and the community and start to build the way that we know we must in the future. So that's one of the asks for this project. As far as the architecture, while it's amazing, we've been coming here. Carlos lived in Key Colony, my partner, he's right there. And we've been bringing our children. We've been coming here as children. So we really, even though we know it quite well, we always start by doing a deep dive into the history and culture of the place, because we believe our studio is a small studio. We started about 20 years ago. One of the things that we really pride ourselves in, or we try anyways, to listen and to learn about the culture of the place we're designing for. And even though Miami gets a blanket treatment in the press, We understand that Miami is a collection of neighborhoods, and Key Biscayne is unique and distinct, separate from Miami. And I know that you all are very proud of that, and we're trying to design something that acknowledges that history and that culture. So we found a lot of really amazing imagery. This was one of the first decks. I just wanted to share it with you so you guys know how we kind of our process is. Just, about the history, the fact that the whole north part of the island was given for nature and as a community space, we think is amazing. So we thought nature and creating outdoor spaces and open air spaces are really important. And then just some of, obviously, the lifestyle here, the idea of being on an island paradise. What does that mean for architecture? How can we embrace that? How can we showcase that? There's obviously Stillsville is unique, and everyone, it's a marvel, and it's a beautiful little legacy. It's not that we're being literal about Stillsville. I just want to clarify, we're not designing, shacks in the sky, but something that the pioneers that built early Florida knew and understood is that elevation, breezes, open air, not relying on AC. So those are the things about it that we think are quite beautiful. And we think, it's wonderful that they're trying to preserve these things, and we want to kind of make a little nod to it, make a reference to it. For example, in the Sandbar, we're thinking that we know that that's a beloved institution. We're trying to figure out how do we do an outside cafe or bar, a little watering hole next to the beach. It allows that lifestyle to remain. And that one definitely could be inspired by Stillsville a little bit more directly. And then the lodge, there's a tradition in Florida vernacular is quite beautiful that we see it in the Barnacle and, in the yacht clubs that exist in Key Biscayne and otherwise. So where we have lower scale buildings, that's definitely one of the inspirations that we're looking at Florida Precedents and Stillsville. And just generally, the idea that the amenities don't have to be air-conditioned boxes, that we try to have these buildings that can breathe, that we try to have pavilions in the landscape. We really love Bali in that everything in the landscape, nothing's taller than a palm tree. So for a big majority of the site east of the CCL, that is the approach that we're taking. What we want people to feel is this beautiful, lush botanical garden in which these little pavilions are sitting. Something very tropical, very island. That is the lifestyle that we're trying to create for the residents here. And so when we put this is another deck that we shared with David and the team early on. One of the other things is that, we understand that this is a community of families. And so creating things for children, for teenagers, for different age groups to enjoy and be outside and to have that lifestyle and to weave it into the story of Key Biscayne. It's a fun sort of, challenge for us. And we've been working very closely with Raymond Jungles and his team to kind of, and they'll talk more about what they're doing on that and the activities side. And then the final this is the image from the water. You can start to see, we didn't, unlike some other buildings that every floor is kind of accentuated the same and they're not really differentiated, we're trying to really break up the massing and let it feel a little bit more floating. The columns from grade to the third floor are emphasized so that the building feels like it's floating on top of the canopy of trees. We're trying to create open air pockets and kind of break up the massing, again, avoiding a big blocky massing. And then the massing that I mentioned on the north side, it's stepping down and the terraces are almost like pulled out in green trays. We have to sort of make a nod towards the Key Colony massing, which is also that kind of stepping up massing. On the roof, we have solar panels, we have plunge pools. Again, I'll show you some imagery and inspiration of what that looks like. Materiality is light colored. It's number one for the sun. Deep overhangs, porches. Where we have wood will probably be in the inside eave where it's protected. Otherwise, it would be terracotta or a composite material so that it would age properly in our climate. We love that. This is a sort of a timeless palette of travertine and woods and materials that can take the severe coastal environment that we find ourselves in. And then this is one view of the arrival. You can see how the wood is where it's protected on the eave, everywhere else. And again, incorporating landscaping and louvering. This is an example of how it becomes an inside space. So there would be outside family room spaces and indoor air-conditioned spaces, trying to really create something that I think is rare in some of these condominiums where the balconies is just uninterrupted, the same thing all over repeated, but really break it up. And every time there's a room that can respond, that you can have that indoor-outdoor experience that we offer to our single-family clients who love it. We're trying to bring that level of design to this project, to be really thoughtful about where we create those louvers, where we create those spaces. And this is, for example, just an inspiration image for the spa, same idea, creating you don't need air conditioning everywhere, and if we, and just really relating always to nature, bringing in water to have the spa experience feel tropical and luxurious. And the pavilion for yoga, for example, is not air conditioned. We have it somewhere in the property. They'll show it to you, and basically let the landscape weave with the architecture and have that synergy and that play between architecture and landscape. One of the other asks that we're asking, just to clarify, the diagram probably shows it. The code asks us to design for a 63-degree angle, and if we did that, we would have a ziggurat, which is not a particularly floor. We just didn't feel it would really work for the project, and we think because we don't have that much width on this project, we would like the same angle that Oceana has, which is 79 degrees. So one of the asks that we're asking is just to have what they were allowed to do, to be allowed to do it, which is to have a less severe angle, to do it the 79 instead of the 63. It just results in a better massing for us, and we think the architecture is even though we are not trying to do a box all the way across the site, we're just trying to get the very top to kind of feel more cohesive. And again, this is what the final, on the roof is a penthouse. We have 2 penthouses, and then everywhere that we step down, we have a green roof. So it's a series of green roofs, solar roofs. We're going to be doing cisterns, and my colleagues will speak a little bit more about it really quickly on the plans, because I don't want to take up everyone's pointer. Just to show you how the traffic works here. Thank you. So this is Sonesta. You come down, and then you arrive. The residents will arrive and go down to a basement parking. We have presently two basement parking. We're trying to do it in one. They will get dropped off here, and the valet will take them, and then the lobbies are right here. And then if not, they continue out and then out. So the queuing will happen like this. The loading is happening over here. Right now on the site is a surface road with surface parking. So we felt like this would not be a change dramatically to what's already there. We're basically kind of having the same condition. One of the things that, and Tara and David mentioned it, is that we're trying to solve while we're doing this development, trying to solve some of the neighborhood issues that are coming up. One of the big issues we heard about from Oceana was that they really didn't like the trucks that were queuing on the street to take the seaweed off of the beach, and that this wasn't really designed for trucks to go down. So what's happening is that the trucks are queuing here. So one of the proposals is to put the trucks on our side, take them to the north, have them have a turnaround area to solve that problem, so that to the south, really this could become purely just golf carts and pedestrian. So it solves that problem, because these units are quite close to that area, and the noise and the trucks queuing is it's a nuisance. So just from a standpoint of how to make this benefit the neighborhood, that's one of the things that we did. We're trying to keep the mature trees that are on the ends. We're trying to keep all the trees that we can that are mature on the edges. We are respecting the setbacks, except for the angle that I asked for, which is what was given to Oceana. We're within all the setbacks that are required. I'm not going to speak to this world, because I'm going to let Raymond talk about that and jungles, but it's basically an open air. Again, we don't have right now air conditioned. We're looking at how to do the lodges over here, and the sandbar is over there. And the spa, when you come in, will be off to the left. This is a gym that's the amenity for the residents to the south. There's a mezzanine because we were trying to create a double height space when you come in. And I will mention that we're looking at this space because one of the comments we're trying to learn from our neighbors, and one of the comments we got from Oceana is that they don't like the air condition, the breeze that's coming from that breezeway. So they think we should enclose the lobby. So we're going back and forth, and that's not I just want to mention full disclosure that we're still looking at that. There's a basement right now. There's 2 floors of basement. We really would like to do it in 1 floor, because it's obviously better not to dig a deeper hole. But that is right now we have to respect that coastal construction line, and that's being discussed as we speak. The unit layouts basically this is a very low intense use. It's only 5 units per floor. And then on the upper floors, it goes to 2 when you have it goes to 4, then it goes to 2. But basically it's 2 units share a core. You can see there's 1 core per 2 units, 1 core per 2 units. And this one, which is really like a special unit, it has 1 core, and it's just a private. So that's basically it. And then as we get to the penthouse, it's 1 big unit that has the core in the center. This is a section, so you can see how the lobby that I mentioned, that arrival space is 2 stories. That right now we have the 2-story basement, and then the pool area. One of the things that will be discussed again by my colleagues is how we're trying to retain water on our site. We're doing this through a system of bioswales, rainwater gardens, and cisterns. And in addition to all the gray infrastructure that's required by code to deal with which Civil would discuss. This is important in addition to all of the other things that we've mentioned. There's a 25,000 gallon cistern. There's going to be 12 gravity wells. I'm going to let Civil talk more about this. Just know that on the building design side, we are trying to make it as green as possible, as resilient as possible. And it starts with elevation, first of all, and then how to keep water on our own site and not flood adjacent properties and be a good neighbor. The landscape and the trees are actually one of the best things we can do because they absorb water, they hold it, and then they slowly release it. So the more tree canopy we give, the lower the ambient temperature, the better drainage we're going to have. So Jungles has come up with a really interesting scheme of having almost like topo, which we'll talk about, and that allows us to even hold more water. So we're really excited about some of the landscape concepts. I'm going to let them speak about it. And this is where I would. Thank you.
So, thank you, Jackie. Raymond, if you and Chris can come up real quick. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Raymond Jungles. This is Chris Counts, who's been working with me as the main designer on the project. And we're really excited about it because we do gardens, and this is a project that is going to be a garden. It's not just going to be landscaping on a commercial multifamily residence. And I go back to that site probably 35 years ago when I used to ride my bike out to the sandbar from the Grove. And when David came to us with this project on this site, it was like just one of those sites you just have to get extremely excited about. So I'm going to let Chris take it from here, but I'll be here if there's any other questions. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Chris Counts, and I will touch on briefly the landscape concept. As has kind of been mentioned already, what we're really trying to do is create a thriving ecology. In terms of the plant material, this is a scheme that prioritizes biodiversity, creating plant communities, and doing that not only because it's beautiful, but it's appropriate and reflects the kind of native character. One of the things that makes Key Biscayne so special. But in addition to it being beautiful, as we know, it also, when we brace native ecologies, we have salt tolerance, we have less irrigation, storm surge. Nature's already figured a lot of this out. I'm sure you guys are quite aware of that. But in terms of a driving concept, that's one of our biggest ones. It is going to be lushly planted as we imagine, so it's going to be creating lots of shade, lots of habitat. But the kind of two central moves for the design strategy is one large, you can kind of start seeing this image, one large water body. And the shape of that's very intentional. The idea is that because it kind of bends around the corner and because it's so large and contiguous, unlike other projects that will have multiple different water bodies, it'll make the project feel much, much bigger because you can't see the body of water in one instance when you're on the ground. As we mentioned, a kind of interconnected canopy, native trees that are going to absorb water, they're going to create shade, and give it a very, very rich character. And below this, there are some moments of lawn, and let's see. So we'll have moments where there's some flexible lawn. The top of this is a native secret garden, we're calling it. There's flexible lawn for, kind of movies and informal play. And there's a kind of sports, we're calling it a sports hub down here that has a small lawn. But everything else is just lush, native, canopy, hammock vegetation. And this is a plan that starts to look at what the understory, so all of the plants and plant communities that exist in nature in Key Biscayne will be kind of, that's kind of our inspiration for what's happening below the canopies. So Jackie mentioned the topography, and this is something that we are really excited about and think is fairly unique for this project typology. So, as is mentioned, we want to come up to elevation 12, but we're like, oh my gosh, that could be a really cool design opportunity. So we've kind of taken that base that's kind of, so the existing grade is at about 5. So we're going up, 7 in the, kind of in the central area and all the FFEs, so we're out of that kind of flood zone. But we also have areas that are going up even higher to 16, so you're getting a grade change of over 10 feet in a fairly small area, which for a site within this context that's so flat, we think is going to be very dramatic and exciting. And then embedded within that topography is a series of path systems that create kind of interlocking loops. It makes it much more interesting to kind of move around, and you can kind of create your own experience. So it doesn't feel the same every time you go. But that kind of long interconnected looping system, what it also does is it allows us to maintain a 5% slope. So even though we're changing grade potentially up to 10 feet, it's all ADA accessible. So that works with wheelchairs, with strollers. It's very family friendly, and it's just really fun to kind of move around these types of spaces, we think. It also allows us to, one of the other great attributes of this type of approach, I mentioned the water body, but the topography itself also makes the project, it will feel a lot bigger, and allows us to kind of carve up these outdoor rooms in a way that is very efficient and beautiful, and we think it's going to be very, very unique. One minor one, for example, like we're allowed, because we're coming up, we're building up, that creates opportunities for us to like embed the cistern and other kind of infrastructure. So it does a lot of practical as well as aesthetic and experiential work for us. We're also imagining that we'll use the topography to guide stormwater. So at the toe of the slopes, we would have a series of planted swales that will collect, will clean the stormwater, and create what we hope a kind of a model of green infrastructure as well. And then, also this topography, we have, for example, down here, this is what we kind of have the Prospect Hill, and that's, 14, elevation 14 above what currently is 5. So it'll create this great prospect, for views all throughout the site. And there's all those kind of those dots there are suggesting kind of key moments that we've designed around like very, very special views. But then what complements that is that this kind of fluid geometry of circulation will create these unfolding landscapes, so that your view is always changing, both in elevation and in, I guess, on the ground, what you're looking at. And then, as I mentioned, we're not going to get into all of this, but it's not always apparent on the landscape plan, but this is imagined to house a really exciting and diverse amount of program. Jackie mentioned the lodge, but there's also a bar. There's an area that we're imagining for natural children's play. There's the sports hub, hammock grove, cabanas, yoga meditation. There's a sunken spa garden for the spa. Lots of exciting stuff, but all of those colors there represent various different kind of programs and uses that we're imagining on the site. And then last slide, just a quick example of some of the vegetation that we think is characteristic of the approach that we're envisioning. And I think that's it for landscape. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Well, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Raymond, so much. Next, I wanted to invite Hernando from Schwebke Shiskin. There's a few things that we wanted to talk about stormwater. We're going to get to some different community benefits that we're thinking about off-site, not necessarily on-site, but today Hernando's just going to speak really briefly about kind of what we're doing on-site from a civil engineering perspective, and then we'll talk a little more about the community benefits. But Hernando, go right ahead. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Hernando Navas. I'm with the firm of Schwebke Shiskin. We're civil engineers. My specialty is stormwater. We've been doing stormwater in the area for about 75 years. We've been very fortunate to work with the different communities, including the city of Miami Beach, city of Miami, and Key Biscayne in the past. The reason why we like this project is because there is an opportunity to not only create an impressive development, but also provide an incredible amount of drainage for the project, as well as making sure that our site does not impact the neighbors nor the streets. One of the first things that we're going to be doing as part of the project is elevating the existing ground. What that will do is it would actually protect us from the rising waters from the ocean as well as from the streets, but it also gives us the opportunity of using gravity as a free pump. What I mean by that is the higher the elevation, the better your drainage system will work. That is the reason why some of the communities in the area have lifted their roads to be able to provide additional push head into the soil or into the pump system. So one of the things that is proposed, like Jackie had mentioned, is to elevate the finished floor. With that, we're elevating the site. And for us to be able to control some of that drainage to stay on site, we're putting in retaining walls on the north and on the south. And the purpose of that retaining wall is to allow us to elevate the ground as well as to prevent the water from overflowing into the neighbors. So in addition to that, we've also come out with drainage wells. Typically, a project like this can be currently permitted with about 4 drainage wells. This particular project is going to have a total of 12. In addition to the 12 wells, we're also going to introduce exfiltration trenches for the lower areas, as well as bioswales and rain gardens. When you put all that together, you have a really cumbersome, nice stormwater management system that tackles problems in different ways, right? Roof water directly into the wells at a higher elevation can get rid of a lot of water really soon. Retaining walls that keep the water inside our site and pushes the water into our system. And again, and also another feature that we are implementing in this particular project is the introduction of a 25,000-gallon cistern that will collect water from the roof, put it into the cistern so that it can actually be used for irrigation, at a later date. So those are some of the features that we're thinking. In addition to that, we're also looking at these different design parameters. Typically, the water table that we're using nowadays is mean high water. We intend to use FDOT design criteria for water levels, which actually projects it as the seawater level rises. So I think it's a very comprehensive project where the developer has given us the green light to design something that really works. And like I said, if you look at the building, it's going to come with something very interesting, which is the water, which is not as glamorous, but it's something very important for the community. Anyways.
And Hernando, real quick, if you could stay. One of the things we've been I've been meeting a lot with neighbors, Holiday Colony and Key Colony and Oceania and others, and the flood situation or stormwater management in the area is there's a lot of thinking behind it, and I know that the village is moving forward with a great visionary plan. And for us, one of the things we're if Fernando, you could just share a little bit, and there's still a lot more work we need to do on this, but if you could share a little bit some of the ideas and concepts that we've been thinking about for Holiday Colony, just to talk about what potentially we could be helpful with. Thank you.
Yes, we have been in contact with the village engineers. We've looked at the master plan that you guys have, and we've been in conversation with them to try to see what we can do to help alleviate any of the drainage problems, right, that you're having. So we have been talking to them. We've looked at their master plan. We've looked at their models. And, like I said, we don't want to make a decision that is quick and that it seems like we're doing something. We really want to get our heads into it with the design consultants as well as with the village. So it is something that we're looking at, David, but I don't have anything quite to tell you at this time.
Give them your idea.
Well, right now what I'm thinking is maybe what we can do is to wait until the big development happens, which is kind of ways from now, is the introduction of a pump system that will then, for the community immediately adjacent to us, be able to collect the water from the existing drainage system and pump it into 5 drainage wells. And we have used this concept in Miami Beach, very successful, and it's something that works and that can provide you relief immediately. Also, for the community adjacent to us. As you might know, the entire system of the city is interconnected, or for the most part, and everything goes to different outfalls into the bay. So one of the things that is happening in the neighborhood next to us is as it rains, because this area is kind of at the tail end of the system, it could be flooding as the water tries to leave through the bay. So what we're thinking is installing a check valve system where the water only goes in one direction, so that when the pumps are working and we're lowering the water, if any water is coming in from the other neighborhood, it will lock it up and it will allow this system to be able to work. The moment that the water level in the rest of the system gets lower than ours, or the adjacent neighborhood, it will then allow the water to flow as well. Again, the important thing is we are keeping our water on our site. Whatever this is going to be doing it for the community, not for our project. Our project is going to be self-sufficient, and it's going to have enough capacity to deal with not only the storms today, but the ones coming in the future. This is just a brief overall of the plan that we have prepared. There you can see in yellow some of the exfiltration trenches. I don't know if you can see in the middle of the site, there's like a rectangle that's the proposed cistern that we're going to be proposing. And then there's a series of red squares. Those are the 12 drainage wells that are being proposed. They're all going to be interconnected so that they can act together and be able to, if in the event that one of those gets clogged or whatever, you still have the 11 remainder to be able to work. So you have the cistern in the middle right in here. The cistern has been placed at a high elevation so that it can actually get the water from the roof in at a higher elevation, and that way you avoid the uses of pumps, because the water will be at a higher elevation and it can actually push it for irrigation. We also have those red squares. They're all interconnected with solid pipe throughout the site to be able to provide the adequate drainage. And then we also have, for some of the areas that are at a lower elevation, we have in the yellow the exfiltration trenches that we're putting in. Again, the good thing about it is that we're elevating the site. And that really helps us a lot, because we don't depend on power. We don't depend on a generator. It's actually gravity fed. And that's the best part of it. This is just a view of the cistern. Again, it's 25,000 gallons. This, as you saw, there's a lot of green area in this particular project. This is good enough for about 5 days worth of irrigation. And in the rainy season, it's going to keep on filling all the time. So, it could be used quite substantially during the rainy season. Thank you.
Thank you, Hernando. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Now I just wanted to talk a little bit about community benefits, and I'll try to be quick so that we could get more discussions and questions and comments. One of the big decisions we have today, right, is we would like to make this a 56-unit residential project. Today, I believe it would be allowed to build a 116-key hotel. And for us, I wanted to have Raquel just talk a little bit about traffic methodologies, traffic, concepts, just to really understand how this development can have more incremental assessed value and tax revenues, hopefully, to the village, but at the same time create less traffic on a neighborhood and on a community that does not need any more traffic. So please, Raquel, if you could share with us. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Raquel Saloniquia. Oh, there we go. I'm a licensed traffic engineer with Kimley Horn, and we've prepared some vehicle trip generation comparisons for the various development programs for the site that were considered. And just to give a brief overview of where we got this data, it's based on national published data called, it's from the Institute of Transportation Engineers. We refer to it as ITE data. Apologies. And this is a professionally recognized resource, and that is accepted from all municipalities. And it provides us formulas that allow us to be able to calculate the number of vehicles we expect to be generated by these various development programs. So in the table that you can see on the screens, the first section shows the expected number of vehicles that may be generated based on the maximum allowable density as of right for the site. And you can see that it generates approximately 70 vehicles in the morning peak hour, which is between 7 and 9 a.m., and around 140 vehicles in the evening peak hour, which is between 4 and 6 p.m. However, the project is proposing the reduced development program. So instead of 116 hotel rooms, they're proposing 56 residential units, as well as a smaller food and beverage area with around 80 seats, and including a around 4,000 square foot spa. So as far as the residential versus hotel program goes, it's less than half of what the maximum density would be. And so we've run trip generation analyses for this proposed reduced development program. You can see in the AM peak hour in the morning, it would generate less than 40 vehicle trips. And in the evening peak hour, it would generate around 65 vehicle trips. And just as a comparison, you can kind of see it on the bottom in the last row of the table. This is 78% fewer vehicles compared to the maximum as of right scenario in the morning, and 117% fewer vehicles compared to the evening, compared to the maximum development scenario. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Raquel. I'm sure there'll be more discussion on that. One of the two things that we wanted to talk about, one I think Jackie mentioned earlier, we are going to be having a beach maintenance easement as well as a beach raker parking in order to facilitate and the real need that Key Biscayne has to be able to maintain its beach. And we'll be doing that on our property, as well as the current public beach access in between Silver Sands and Oceania. We're hopeful that Raymond Jungles is going to do a tropical garden, but still provide the much needed public access to the beach. And here it kind of depicts some of that use and purpose. And then overall, we're going to talk, as Hernando talked a little bit about some, ideation. Our firm's always looking at trying to make neighborhoods better, because it's not only the right thing to do in society, but also because it's good for business. The better and less flooding that happens in Holiday Colony, the better it is for this asset and this property. And so our goal is to hopefully be able to work with the village and really figure out how we can make a smart decisions on and try to create as much short-term and medium-term solutions, as well as any funding or anything for maintenance associated with these stormwater systems for the village. Real quick analysis. We hired Kevin Crowder, who does a lot of the economic development analysis for cities and municipalities and tax base, and just wanted to highlight, really from a incremental tax revenue perspective and assessed value, really over 99 years, and really from a net present value basis, I think we're probably going to be around 3 times more assessed value, maybe 300% more assessed value from a hotel to a residential. And and we understand that those residents are also going to be hopefully, paying a very significant price for each of the 56 units. The units average around 3,000 to 4,000 square feet. And so our goal is really to hopefully elevate those property values in Key Biscayne, and hopefully not only does this project generate more incremental tax revenue, but also the compression effect that happens with residential that we've done in other communities like Coconut Grove, where you really elevate the price per foot of certain residences. And I think there's a general also incremental tax revenue potential for the neighborhood as well. So we're hopeful that we can improve this asset, and this just gives us a little background on some of the assumptions that went into the analysis from a fiscal standpoint. And obviously this is available, and any of the consultants that we have are always available for any questions and comments. This is just real brief, assuming the village and the community is supportive of this idea, which then, I think, we wouldn't really be moving forward with any activity on the site really till probably the soonest would probably be second quarter of 2026. So there's still a lot of work to do, a lot of planning to do, and a lot of meetings that we need to have in order to make this the best project and really to adapt to the community's concerns and the village's concerns. So that's kind of something about us that's not relevant, but I just appreciate your time, and this is some of the work from Tuesday and Raymond Jungles and kind of the team. And I just wanted to thank all of you for your time, and we are ready for any comments, questions, or anything you guys would like us to do. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I think if my colleagues don't have an issue, maybe we let the people ask questions, and then we can weigh in at the end, since there's still a long ways to go on this project. And Mr. Manager, maybe somebody on staff can help and take the microphone.
We in fact have a microphone right here.
Yeah, yeah. And
we have the technology. So
yeah.
All
right. So yeah, if we can take the microphone to the people, and remember, this is the first time that this is being presented to the community. So a lot of details yet to go, and no final decisions are being made here tonight. So this is a time to get input, and then hopefully Mr. Martin can answer some of your questions. So let's keep the questions succinct, and so that we can have everybody get to their questions. Okay, let me see a hand.
Got one in the back over there.
Okay.
Usually we send around cards. Since we're doing it this way, if you can just say your name and address for the record, so we have a proper public
Yeah,
record.
we are recording this meeting, and so you'll be able to see it if those people at home that aren't watching.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Sekaris, and I live at Emerald Bay. My question is, do you have any plans to be meeting with the people at Oceania and at the 4 developments at Key Colony, since they will be your direct neighbors?
So I've already commenced meetings with Oceania, met with the board member, property manager as well, and walked the property, kind of thinking through a lot of issues, not only from a design point of view, but also from a logistics point of view during construction, and how we could create construction mitigation for Oceania. Also have had meetings and discussions with the president of the Master Association of Key Colony, had discussions with some residents at the Tidemark Association. So of the 4, the Tidemark is the closest one to the development. And so we are actually planning, I think, the property manager, Susana Garcia, that I think's been there for over 45 years. She's organizing and I think in the next 2 weeks, a presentation to the Tidemark Association, and definitely through Dave McDaniel, the president of the Master, as well as the other buildings, will be presenting them. One of the interesting things we've been discussing with Key Colony has been traffic, right, and traffic planning, and also stormwater. Those have been two of the main issues from a Key Colony perspective that we're very sensitive to, and we have actually Kimley Horn working on some solutions with for Key Colony, and and also, Hernando from Schwepke. Hopefully, a lot of that input we're getting from the community, we're trying to transition into some solutions that we could propose to the village. But thank you, ma'am. But
I have a follow-up. As president of the association at Emerald Bay, I have heard nothing from your organization.
And ma'am, I look forward, and I apologize for that. I've been I think this is going to be, there's going to be a lot of time for us to get together and engage and see how we could, work together and look for solutions together. So hopefully after this meeting, we could connect and try to exchange contact information to be able to meet with you and your neighbors and your property management team. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Ann Tainer, Ocean Lane Drive. When you were calculating the traffic with the cars, did you work in there the workers that would be there?
Yes. So there's a few things when we're thinking of the residential, the traffic planners and engineers, what they do is they have a national model that basically apply, and then that basically takes zones and types of residential real estate to interpret and come up with these projections. One of the several community meetings I've had, I think for the most part, I think most people I've met with, I think, understand and agree that not only the hotel traffic and Uber and taxi traffic, but also the employee traffic of a hotel is a pretty significant amount of trips. So on the residential side, I think definitely I heard a comment from one individual about not only should the traffic be considered for the actual owners that are living there, but also the service providers, right? The people that are maybe are cleaning or cooking or doing activation, giving the services to the residential. And so that was something I addressed with Kimley Horn after that meeting, and they laid out that this national, this basically recognized by all traffic engineer protocol model kind of incorporates all those types of things on the hotel side and on the residential side. But it is a good point, and it's something that has been raised to me before.
My other question is, how much of an impact is this going to be on the elementary school or the schools on the Key?
It's a very good question. Obviously, we will be paying our, and contributing to the school board concurrency. On top of that, this project is a portion of its millage and tax revenue is going to be dedicated revenue source for the school board. But these 56 units, although similar projects we've worked on in Coconut Grove, a lot of the buyer base is more empty nester. And sometimes second or third home, but I do believe that there will be families living here, and I do think there will be some impact on the schooling. But I do also kind of parallel from other residential buildings that what we've seen is kind of occupancy levels are a little different, especially when they're second and third homes, and also that a lot of the buyers have been more empty nesters where the children have already kind of left to their family. But thank you for those comments, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Judge Kurlanchak, 611 Ocean Drive. When we negotiated the agreement with Oceana, there was a $7 million contribution to the Land Acquisition Fund, $1.5 million contribution to the community center, and a stormwater system. And I want to say,
Judd, you want to use the microphone? So
in a total of something of 20.
It's on. It's on.
And a total of some $20 million. Now you've made an initial start of contributing some money to the stormwater system, which everybody knows is bad in Holiday Colony. And you're addressing some impacts from Key Colony. I don't think that your presentation fully explained the huge nature of your request. The current zoning, and I won't get into the weeds on this, does not permit any residential units. That ordinance was specifically designed to stop residential units at the Silver Sands at that time. Things have changed. We all know that nobody's going to put a hotel on this property. It's not feasible. So you're asking the council to add significant value to this property. And you've got an excellent project. It's well designed, it's well thought out, and you're only at the beginning stages. And I applaud you with the presentation tonight. And I'm hopeful, because I know who you are, and you're one of the better developers that we have in Dade County, and your projects are exceedingly successful, and you're used to voluntary covenants. How voluntary they are, I'm not quite sure, but you're used to what happens. And I'm optimistic that the village manager, the village attorney, and the BZP director and council will work closely with you so that we see significant improvements to the community, specifically in terms of land acquisition. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Alejandro Suaya. I'm a neighbor from Tidemark. Thank you very much for the presentation to developers. Thank you to the council. This is like my first experience, so I want to be very clear. You're requesting a rezoning, a higher and wider building, right? So on top of the rezoning, you're requesting to be higher and wider?
So the three things that we're looking at is the zoning use right now, that there's like this density restriction that says you can't build more density than what's allowed. So what we are saying is we'd like to build, even though the zoning has a density per acre for residential, but the density moratorium restricts that, right? So what we're asking is to be able to allow us to build the 56 units that are there currently to just replicate that same 56%. But that is a text amendment to the zoning code, which in essence is a zoning change, but I just wanted to clarify that. The second thing is on the height. Basically, we're talking around 3 feet, right? When you really think about it, with the mechanical areas and whatever, we actually may be lower than Oceania, and that's something we've been studying. So actually with the mechanical areas, we're actually gonna be lower. But overall, the 3 feet is more a resiliency thing, but it's only specific to this property, not other properties that would change and hopeful. And then on the width of the property, right now, we have a 25-foot setback that basically we have, and then we have this code. So yes, on the, call it top 4 or 5 floors, there's around a kind of a little wider.
So it's wider in the top.
On the top. On the bottom, it's actually more narrow than allowed, but on the top, it's kind of like more like this, but then there's like a taper on the top. So we still created it's like a 79-degree angle instead of a 63-degree angle, but which is, yeah, what Oceania is. But regardless, yes, sir, and the answer is yes. But I think on the residential side, we're just hoping that the community would find that the residential use is going to be a lower impact, but it definitely is a zoning change, sir.
And the second point is that I'm one of the owners of the townhouses, and we are ground level family units, and you're moving the trucks to that side. Oceana doesn't have ground level units on that side, so that would really affect us on that side. So you're moving the problem from one side to the other side.
And we could explore that together, and I'd love to sit down and talk to you about how that could be mitigated, because one of the things we discussed was actually, having a wall, because right now there is no wall to Silver Sands, and also having a green buffer before that occurs. But there is currently a street there. And so what happened was, when we were meeting with Oceania a little bit, it was like, along Heather, they have on their south side of Oceania, they were getting hit with the trucks. And then on the north side of Oceania, they were getting hit with the trucks. So they were kind of getting hit on both sides. And so, and what happens is, because the Tidemark, the homes have a little bit of a setback more, but in the Oceania version, it was like right on top of the residence. So it was like, so basically those residents were like, it was pretty significant. It didn't have much setback, but I agree with you that we need to be very sensitive to the green infrastructure buffer, and this is not final, but the green infrastructure buffer and wall, depending on what height you would like it to be. And to be honest with you, I'd love to meet with you after this meeting to kind of workshop the design a little more in order to improve it and mitigate it whatever we can.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Steve Sterling. I live at the Towers of Key Biscayne. I'm curious about, actually, this is questions going this direction. I'm curious, Mayor Joe and probably Steve, and thank you for a great presentation, by the way, but what's the process for the village to do a cost-benefit analysis of what this really adds up to? And I think we know anybody's been attending the meetings, the village has a lot of expenses coming for a lot of preparedness going on. And I'm curious to know what our process is to really evaluate for the village what the cost benefit or the cost risk analysis will be, and how does that go from your point of view?
Between Steve and Chad, what we can do in terms of looking at the project, and also what if this X happens, then what that would mean to us.
So I'll address that first, and Chad, if you want to join in. So a good question, and obviously, you know, we've seen this, you know, for a little bit, but not as much detail as we've seen tonight. So, you know, there's work to be done. As the mayor mentioned as he kicked off, that this is the first step. Obviously, we want to see something that brings a great amount of benefit to the community, and you know, it's not just financial. There's other things as well. So, you know, give us some time as you guys evaluate it. We're going to evaluate it as well, and make sure we get the best product for the village.
Chad, in terms of what we can take, and you want to talk maybe a little bit about the quasi-judicial side of this and what we can take into account so that everyone is also aware.
Sure. Eventually, this project will come. Sorry about my voice. Eventually, this project will come before a quasi-judicial hearing, which will be a zoning hearing in which the council will make a determination based upon criteria in the code. That economic impact will be something that the council can look at, but it's really based upon the exact criteria in the code. So I think it's more persuasive than mandatory, but I think that it is something that can be packaged together, like the manager said, and should be kind of explained. I think Mr. Martin did an initial analysis there, and that's something for Steve and his staff to go back and cross-check and build upon.
Thank you.
Hey, Bill Durham, 230 Seaview Drive. Thank you very much for the informative presentation, Mr. Martin. Very, very nice. My question isn't that technical. I remember the Sandbar Restaurant and Lounge that was at that location for many years, and you mentioned there was going to be a bar and restaurant component to this project. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that and tell us if it might be open to the public. Thank you.
Sure. This has been this specific question. It's been something that I've been open to. You know, our view is, and we included it in our traffic count. We included the food and beverage in our traffic count. But I am really open to if the village and community and immediate neighbors wanted a food and beverage operation, for that to be open to the community, or for that not to be part of the program for the project. It's not a requirement. It's not something that I'm, that is mandatory, that we must do. But we just felt that it would be nice. It could be a nice community asset to have a food and beverage place, for the residents of Key Biscayne. But we are open to trying to do something that is the least impactful to the neighborhood. And so for us, it's really a question of should it be private or public, and a lot of it has to do with traffic impacts. And so for us, we just want to we have the option on the table, but it's not something that is a necessary option. But we would like to work with the village and the community to see if that's the right solution for the property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Josie Valdez Hurtado, 600 Great Tree Drive. The building looks beautiful from the waiting room, and the proposal looks wonderful. But looking at the other projects that you have built and we saw, have you ever encountered the difficulties that you're going to have in building that in a 1.7 mile island, sitting on sand, with all these issues that are coming up and all the ones that are going to come up. Those are a lot of hurdles that you're going to have to jump. And are you willing to invest on it, or are we going to have to pay for them?
No, so we've worked in a lot of different neighborhoods and worked on a lot of public-private partnerships, transit-oriented developments, low-scale 60-unit high-end residential buildings on beaches, et cetera. And, one of the big things with this property is currently the current zoning allows a 40% lot coverage. This site is only going to be using around 25% of the lot. So basically 75% of the lot is either going to be access or green space and amenity space so we're trying to reduce the lot coverage from 40 to 25. But this is the business we chose. It's a business that's it's multidisciplinary. It's engaging with a lot of different agencies and regulatory agencies, and it's a process that and a team of professionals that we hire and also that work at our company that really shepherd and steward these projects so that they are done in a very responsible way. But I am not asking the Key Biscayne residents to pay for anything here. What I'm asking is the opportunity to deliver these 56 residential units, and I'm very hopeful that the city and village of Key Biscayne is going to be receiving a lot more in revenues, as well as a beneficial impact, a green beneficial impact, and some community benefits for the neighborhood. So that's our goal and objective, ma'am.
Well, I anticipate that the council is going to get a lot of feedback about not going ahead with this.
Understood.
Because you come at a time when this is already overdeveloped.
I understand.
And even though the zoning allows for it, we have been trying to change the zoning to adapt to the reality of what we have so far. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, how are you? Eduardo Pelico, 350 Ocean Drive. Congratulations on the project. It looks that it's going to be a beautiful building. And I have a question related to Oceana that perhaps you know and you're aware what happened with the second floor of the parking.
Yeah.
And we faced flooding issues. And I don't know if you have plans. How are you going to deal with that?
Yeah, we've been on several properties in Miami Beach. We've have a special system called a deep soil mix to be able to create it with this elevation, the 3-foot elevation change. And with hopefully if we could work with the village to try to reduce it to 1 floor instead of 2, I think that's a very important a part of the solution for the parking. But we do want to have appropriate level of parking in the property because we just do not want to have any of the, not only the residents, but also the services that work for the residents to be parking outside of the community. I'm sorry. So for me, that is something that is something we're still working through with the village to figure out if we could stay at 1 floor, and I think that will really help to avoid some of the nuances of what happened in Oceania, which also we're using a different system than what we currently are using now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The reason why it's Corinne O'Galen. I think it's really responsible and nice of you that you're going up 3 feet, so that the water is
Name and address
better
for the record,
drained.
please.
Corinne Dot, I'm sorry.
Address?
On Galen. So I feel it's very responsible and a beautiful project. I've lived here since '81, and I love the idea that you're using different levels for the water to drain by itself, and you're going to contain that water as far as I understand. And that's something amazing. We haven't had that on the Key. I've sold several projects on the Key. I've been in real estate forever. And I love that you're taking care and being responsible in doing this, wonderful project. So personally, I love it. I hope it all works for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other speakers?
Well, I don't think we are going to stop the development, but since this is the last spot that originally was in Key Biscayne forever, I came in 79, 78, and it was wonderful, my youth, to be there having a drink and eating in the restaurant. Can you, the developer, if this going to go through, put the name of the building, the signs, or a plaque where we can remain the last thing that we are losing from our origins?
We will work on and commit to providing a plaque for Silver Sands at the development, and we'll work with the village on seeing how we could place that and do that in the right way. And I think Jackie Touzé has a lot of the same memories you have, so I promise she's going to try to be as sensitive and informed based on that. So definitely we will consider that, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other?
Vivian Gallego Mendez and Julieta Ulloa from 161 Crandon in Key Colony. And I just want to say that you mentioned that you were proud and honored to be here. I think we're the ones that are proud and honored to have you all. What a team. I think if you can continue what you envision on doing where it's beneficial for everybody, from our businesses, residents, for all of us, I think this is amazing. It's going to put Key Biscayne on another, out of this world. We're going to be beautiful, and it's happening in Miami. It's happening. So as long as we can keep it under control and address all the issues that have been addressed here today, which you seem to want to do, I think that this is wonderful, and we're here to support you.
Thank you.
Julieta? I think she's saying the same thing.
Congratulations, the same thing. I'm really impressed with the project. I'm really impressed with the landscaping, with the architectural, and everything. Congratulations. We support you.
Any other hands going once? Okay. Couple over here on the left, on my left.
Hi, Pilar Grimald. I have lived
Your
in
name and address for the record.
Pilar Grimald, and I live in 251 Crandon Boulevard, Key Colony.
Okay.
I was going to say I've lived in Ocean Club, Key Colony, in many places here. Now currently in Key Colony, and I was apart from that. I think the project is beautiful. I think it really, it's really, let's say, has a lot of affinity with Key Biscayne, which is one thing I really loved. So congratulations, beautiful. And the whole flooding situation, we all knew about what happened, unfortunately, in Oceana. And living in Key Colony, we have serious issues sometimes where my daughter has a Mini Cooper, she couldn't get out the other day. So, because her car's a little low to the floor. So I see that you're addressing all of these issues, and I love the project.
Hello, my name is Eva Cuetara. I live in Ocean Club, and I really love that you addressed the issue regarding how there's so much wind when you enter Oceana. And also, I live in Ocean Tower 1, and we do have this sometimes the situation where there's so much wind and that like specific and like points. So I love that you addressed that, because I was like thinking about that. And obviously you addressed the traffic and the native green and all the trees and amazing, like just everything in particular is beautiful. But yeah, about the wind situation, that is really a big thing, especially in Oceana and Ocean Tower 1, Ocean Tower 2, and Ocean Club. Thank you so much.
I forgot or I didn't hear. Do you have an average price for each unit?
We don't, ma'am, but our gut is, we're probably gonna be around 20 to 25% more than Oceania right now.
So ballpark figure like
Ballpark, probably above 10 million, probably will be the median average.
like 4,000 per square feet?
I'm hopeful, but I think probably in the threes. So if we could get to 4, would be amazing. Yes.
And sales, like the timeline for you?
Really, right now, I don't want to be forward into thinking that the village is going to accept this yet. So hopefully, if we do have the successful buy-in from the village and the community and the council, we're hopeful that sometime within a year we could commence marketing the project.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cecile Sanchez, 260 Cypress Drive. How many total bedrooms is the project going to have?
So on average, we have around three bedrooms per unit, so it would be around 150 bedrooms.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I go there all the time. I go to, my name is Martin Cohen, 481 South Marshall Drive. I just go there with my bicycle, walking, and so forth, and something has to happen there. And knowing whatever, the little I know about you, you are very, giving to the community, and I think the project could be good or bad, and I think between all of us can help you to round it up, but the nature of what you did in South Beach, for example, and with that park, or in Coral Gables and Coconut Grove, I'm very impressed, and since you have a good nature for this community, that's the most important thing beyond the project.
Okay, I think we've exhausted questions. One more? Okay.
Hi. Again, like the average square feet per unit, not the penthouses. I mean, like
Right. The average, I would say anywhere between 3,000 to around 4,000 square foot average.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Okay. I think everyone's been able to address some questions to Mr. Martin, and now let's open it up to us here on the dais. Fernando, you want to go?
I'll take the first shot. First of all, thank you very much for this presentation. I appreciate the professional dedication and the involvement of this. Clearly a very nice project, and I appreciate all the public input. It certainly helps us here up in council to learn how the public feels about this project, especially some of us. I did want to ask a couple of questions and more on the concept overall. First, I wanted to touch base with the architect. I just heard this and there was an inconsistency. You spoke about creating a family-oriented environment, correct?
Yes,
the whole aspect of the setting, but at the same time, I also heard that this will be for empty nesters. So I'm a little
I think
confused.
he said it'd be a mix. Some
Okay.
families and, their ability, if somebody wants to be here with their grandchildren or with their families or with their kids, we don't know what the final mix is, but we want to allow for it.
Do we know the demographics of the adjacent buildings, what they are approximately, what we're talking about?
I don't, but I could work on trying to do a survey and try to get back to the village on that.
We want to create a vibrant environment as well, right? And foster.
100%. For us, it's a question of how do we, at the end of the day, once we sell these homes to individuals, obviously they could go and resell them as well, right? So there's an evolution that happens in Key Biscayne that sometimes it's a little heavier families, or sometimes it's maybe a little less, kind of based on the feedback that I've been receiving. But definitely we see a mix. For instance, in the Coconut Grove, you would say probably a third of that building would be empty nesters, and probably a third would be families, and then the other third kind of is maybe single, or maybe a second, third, fourth, fifth home. So there is going to be a mix
Right.
at the property.
The reason why I'm saying this is because, not to hit an ages or anything like that, but I certainly want to be able to see a development that fosters growth in the community. We are a grassroots community. A lot of people have been here forever, longer than I have, and we want to continue to do that. We don't want to create investment properties for people to buy them and then rent them out and to whoever. We want to be able to create a community that grows
100%.
with our community. Okay, fair enough.
And Oceania, just quick survey point, Oceania, one of the big themes was a playground that they wanted to have. And one of the ideas for us is maybe at the end of the easement, without blocking the easement, but at the end of the easement, we're going to be working on a playground that can serve both buildings.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'll hit on the drainage, but I wanted to I'll let the architect talk more about that. But I'm certainly interested in knowing a little bit about the why 3 feet, and are we really hitting the mark with keeping the property above the flood elevation? Why 3 feet? Why not 5 feet as it should be? Not that I'm trying to make it higher, but I'm trying to understand why 3 feet.
Honestly, I would love 5 feet, but 3 feet seemed like a reasonable ask. Miami Beach has a freeboard of 5 feet.
Right.
And that seems to be the maximum that people are comfortable with. It's based on the data that's been, how long should we be planning for?
Okay.
The more feet, the better position you are in the future for insurance and for, it's not in the code yet, but as you know, it is the future we're facing.
Right.
But 3 feet felt like a reasonable ask. Some people think of that as an ask that we're increasing the height of the building. But the building itself is not benefiting from it. It's still the 150, just moved up
Right.
to be planning for the future.
That's what I thought, and
Yeah.
that's why I felt that, why not stick to code, and why not stick to something that benefits that we're making such a
We
significant
wanted to do
investment.
something that you guys would feel comfortable with. Obviously,
Yeah.
3 feet seemed like a reasonable ask, given the fact that 5 feet is the freeboard in Miami Beach and Miami now, so.
But if the council and village would want 5 feet.
Well,
I mean,
absolutely,
well,
yeah.
I want to be. I know. I guess my message is that I want to be with code. I don't want to just go ahead and satisfy.
Right, but building code right now is
hyperbolic
base flood.
concerns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we would love 5, but obviously we're going for something that felt like it was, wouldn't be asking too much. 5 would be fantastic. The higher we go, the more water we can hold, the less low the basement is. There's a lot of benefits to it, but we understand that,
Well, it needs to be functional.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
why
And we
it
also
needs to be
have an
practical.
existing street elevation at 4.5, so trying to get up the ramp in a gradual way that a fire truck can go is also a limiting factor. So 12, we know we can make it. 15 would be a push. I mean,
Okay,
so
are
they're-
we,
yeah.
and I guess that kind of segues into the civil engineering component. We're going to have to elevate roadways in that area to harmonize?
No,
Okay.
because, we have looked at the ramp length
Mhm.
with a 5% maximum slope for the fire and emergency vehicles, and that seems to work very well with the 12. Right now, so that you also know, FEMA elevation for the area is 8. The future FEMA maps, which nobody knows when they're gonna come out, are on NAVD elevation, and that's going to be set, the new FEMA, whenever that they come out, and nobody knows, to 9.5, right?
Right.
So, it's only going higher, so, certainly want to be higher than the 8 plus 1.
And the Florida Building Code asks for a foot above that, so it would
Right,
be
for the
already,
freeboard.
10.5 would be, once the FEMA maps get updated. And we don't want to be, we would be not doing our jobs to propose a project that we know is going to be not per the current thinking that we all know is coming. So that's why we are proposing.
Right, I always say we want to design for the future, not for today.
Of course. And this, so the 12, just to reiterate, is because that is what we can make it up with the current streets as they are in a nice way without having to have anything that's not, universal access, and we can do it in the 5%. So that's how we get from the street to the 12.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the flooding, which, again, you got most of my attention on that. But let's talk about Holiday Colony. You're speaking with the engineer to, I guess you guys are talking with AECOM or whoever's
Yes, we have.
doing the
We
modeling.
have talked to them and we have reviewed the master plan, yes.
What significant benefits do you see on the current Holiday Colony? I mean, aside from the dynamics you explained, I just want to understand overall, how would this development support the current, flooding that they have in that area, which is, excessive. It's more than a nuisance. These people are consistent. They're caught like in a valley, and we have to help them. And I think these are the opportunities that we have to support that group, that community. So how do you see this? Are you talking to those?
Yeah, well, right now, on our first meeting, what they suggested was for us to install a 48-inch pipe, which is going to be part of the master plan.
Okay.
But when I spoke with David, we felt that even though there's a lot of millions of dollars involved in there, we thought that was not going to be appreciated right away. It's just going to be a pipe buried underground until you guys design and put the entire system to work. So that's why, we took it upon ourselves to see how we could actually alleviate those issues right now. And, what we're thinking is of having a lift station to be able to pump the water out of that system, get that water being pumped through a manifold where we could have 5 drainage wells flush with the ground with the so-called, that you remember very well, the passive relief structure.
Yep.
That FDP requires until the highest elevation that we can set it up, which is 8.0 NGVD. And we felt that with those 5 wells and that pump, that will be the equivalent of the option number 1 that the village master plan has as the as one of the solutions for the entire island. So we feel that with that pump station and those 5 wells, we will be providing that particular development right next to us the same level of service or equivalent to what one of the options, the lower option that you're being proposed by the master plan.
So have you seen any alleviation to the current flooding? Or are you guys anticipating some alleviation to current flooding in Holiday Colony supported by this development? I'm not looking at the problems. I'm looking at how you're going to support it. You mentioned it, but are they modeling it? Are you guys
They
to
gave
that
us
stage?
the model, and we, like I said, we are in conversations to see how but that's the idea that we have.
Okay,
We could
great.
put a check valve at the end run so that we can keep that neighborhood separated from the rest. And the reason why I think that should be the case is because as the water from Crandon Boulevard comes through, I believe part of the issue is that the water just finds that area that is lower and floods it until it has enough time to react the entire system and then pull the water out. So if we put that flex gate valve, that will impede that water from coming in, while the pump system that we think will work can actually drain the water from that neighborhood.
Okay. So, all right, I like that. Well, I hope you continue having a good, robust coordination with because I think this would be a great opportunity to provide a good investment to continue to support
I
that
agree.
community.
Yes, completely.
I'll let other folks speak, but that's my thing for now. Thank you.
No, thank you.
So thank you very much for your presentation. It's a great presentation. It really shows the amount of thought that was put into this and the skill of the team, the architects, the landscape architect, your civil engineer, even the traffic. So thank you for putting such a good team together. And some of the things I do like about the project is that, this building has texture to it, has layers, something that we don't see in some of the other buildings. It has a lot of this sustainability strategies and resilience strategies incorporated into it. And also the landscape being integrated into the architecture is very, very compelling, very nice. But I do have some questions, and bear with me because I'm writing them as you guys were speaking, so I'm jumping around a little bit. The first one, I wanted to go back to this idea of the height of the building. So we changed the code in the residential. I'm guessing that this did not, Chad, does this apply to larger buildings where we're allowing the BFE to be higher than, or allowing the floor to be higher than the BFE? or what we changed is only single-family residence.
Only single family.
Okay. So right now we changed that for single-family residence because this is kind of the area that we want to improve, and we did this a couple of years ago. And what we're allowing is the idea of you can build much higher than the BFE. I think I don't even think we limit it anymore. But what we didn't change was the height of the actual building. So if you wanted to go up 8 feet, you could do it, but you would have to make your ceiling heights a little smaller. So that's where you decide how high, how much of that you want to change and what that benefit is. But at the same time, allowing you to go up higher is not creating a taller building for the people next door, people behind, shadows, things like that. So
The issue with that is that basically when you don't allow those 3 feet to translate into a higher building, we're really only building a 150-foot building. We're not building 153. You're effectively penalizing the developer that wants to do something right. So if you say it's optional, if you want to take it higher, do it, only you're going to lose height in the building. Basically, in our project, it would mean we would lose an entire floor. And there's not a lot of developers, quite frankly, even the best of them, which I think he really does care, and I know he does because he's, David develops resilient buildings all over South Florida. It's a very tough sell, and I really encourage you guys to consider what every other city in South Florida is doing, which is they're relaxing the height. And Oceana actually has a taller mechanical, so at net height, we're going to be matched up with them. So in terms of if you were a helicopter flying in the sky and able to look at it side by side, this is de minimis. It's 3 feet over 150, and we're actually going to be right up there if it means that much that we align. But if you don't change the code and allow people to build the way we need to be building, you're going to have a lot of buildings that are obsolete and impossible to insure. Because I can tell you from 30 plus years of doing this, there's not a lot of developers that are going to take you up on that. Yeah. It's just not going to happen.
What are your floor-to-floor heights
Our floor-to-floor, that's the other thing, is 10.8, same as Oceana, because we're compressed to the same 150 feet that they are. So we're not deriving any benefit in any space in our building by asking for this. The only benefit is that we're trying to do a more resilient building. So that's it. We're not creating in some cases, like in Miami Beach, you can take that in the height of the first floor. We're not. We're building the building already at the height that it should be. Because why build something and then tear it down and then rebuild it? So honestly, it is really important, and I serve on the AIA Sea Level Rise, on the UL. I mean, every board and every panel. I'm just telling you, even if it wasn't this project, that's if you want a city for the future, if you want, every developer should really be looking at that and building for the future we know is coming.
Excellent. Some of the other questions that I wrote down here. I saw that you guys had the sandbar. It was sitting in the pool, a little kind of cool little bar there. And I think you mentioned it. I was writing it down as you said it, but the coastal construction line, you were talking about the restaurant, the sandbar. Do you guys have any issues you think that you're with being on that side of on the east side of the...
No, it's same as Oceana that has F&B on that side. You're allowed to do that up to 20 feet, and that's the maximum height, and that's what we're doing. 2 accessory buildings, basically, for the project are not held to the same code issues that we have for the actual building, which is west of it.
So one of the things that speaking to people and talking a little bit about this project, the thing that pops up, and it's like that history, that idea of Key Biscayne, and everybody remembers the sandbar, the Eagle's Nest, and everybody asks, wouldn't it be great to have that ability where we could go sit by the ocean, have a drink, and can that be open to Key Biscayners, not just the people who live there? What are you guys thinking about in that aspect?
We've provisioned to be able to be adaptable, to be able to do both. We did a traffic plan assuming that it was public. But we also can provision it to not be public, and it's really something that we're going to be getting feedback from the general Key Biscayne community, but also the immediate neighborhood as well.
Okay. I just want to ask this question. I think I know the answer, but the parking that you're putting in the building is only privately for you guys. It's not. You're not open this to the public to come and use the beach or anything like that.
Yes,
okay.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Let me see what else we have here. The landscape. So the landscape is beautiful. Obviously, a lot of people are familiar with Raymond Jungles and their office and, you know, the genius work they do all the time. So it's very, very beautiful. One thing I did notice in the elevation of the building, I think on the western side, it seemed like a lot of plantings on the western side, but on the eastern side seemed to be missing that, and it started kind of feeling not as integrated into the building. So I just wanted to see if you could speak a little bit on that front.
We're working on integrating
Okay.
it more. That's something that we have to work out. Now we're getting into unit designs and how they actually, I think I mentioned, we want all of those things to be really meaningful to the actual unit. So we definitely are going to integrate more planting on the edges and balconies, and we're trying to use it actually as a divider between units in some cases where we have greenery. So it's a design challenge that we're now starting to get into as we develop the units.
And then the other thing is on the beach side, we're talking about possibly a larger dune going into that with the Army Corps of Engineers. I don't know where that is, what the heights are. So I'm not sure if you're thinking a little bit about what that height is going to be. Are you going down, back up? Are you trying to match and be up at that same height? Because I know that you have a lot of movement going on.
Do you want to speak to the dune height? Or? I think that was, no, I don't have much to say. Okay. It is going to be higher, and obviously elevation helps us because we're going to be overlooking there's going to be work done as the Army Corps comes in to build, reinforced dunes, and the heights are going to be,
Yeah, and you guys will be kind of integrated.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know
We're gonna be
about it. I
looking
just
at
want to
that.
make
We're
sure.
gonna be looking at that.
All right, I have a question. This kind of goes back to the history. I wrote this down. What's the name of the building?
We don't have it named
You don't
yet,
have
sir.
a name?
No, sir. No,
All
sir.
right, just wondering. 'Cause I haven't heard it yet, and yeah. So yeah, we love when it's something about Key Biscayne history. So
Could be Silver Sands.
yeah. So you also talked about the flood and keeping it within the property. You talked about retaining wall. You guys, this retaining wall would be waterproofed. So because we have instances where people are putting retaining walls, but they don't waterproof them, and they say, hey, everything is keeping the water out, and it's not. It's ending up in all the properties because it will go through the walls at some point. So you guys will be waterproofing all of those.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
From a sustainable efficiency side, I just wanted to bring this up too. There's a lot of glass facing the west and the east, which is a big challenge here because that's your best views,
Yes.
but it's also your heat gain killers over there.
You'll notice there's a lot of louvers in the facade, and part of the strategy is going to be east and west is for vertical louvers. That's why they're vertical and not horizontal. And deep overhangs work best in the south. So we're definitely looking at orientation and heat gain and how to protect the units as best we can. We're very much aware of that.
Excellent. And then traffic. I wanted to talk about traffic a little bit. In the traffic that you brought up, I was kind of just curious. I know these numbers are really small, but the health and fitness was more peak hours for the proposed project in the PM than it was in the AM. I'm sorry, for the PM for if it was a hotel, and I couldn't understand why would that be.
So what the calculation accounts for is the relationship between the various land uses. So a spa, health club, amenity space would actually have a lot of interaction from a hotel use compared to a residential use. So there's more of that like internal captures, which is what we refer to it as when it's a hotel use.
Okay, and I think what Anne was kind of saying when she spoke, when she was talking about the workers, and I think David, when you spoke, you were talking about the workers who come and work. I think she was talking a little bit more like contractors. Oh, you got now 56 units, people are trying to remodel. All of a sudden, you have painters. You got all these guys coming out, and it creates traffic, right? And does that create more traffic than a hotel? Do they remodel more often or not? And is that incorporated in these numbers or not?
You're referring to like after opening during the day-to-day operations. So the data that we use accounts for like a typical residential, a typical restaurant, and a typical spa amenity space. So if there is additional, traffic generated by, the average mid-rise or high-rise residential unit, and there would be workers in and out, and there would be employees in and out, those numbers are incorporated.
They're baked into those numbers.
Yes.
Okay. And then I know that Holiday Colony, Key Colony, you hear a lot about they have some traffic issues as well, getting access, getting in and out. Have you guys been talking to them? Are there some ideas on the table? I know sometimes when you solve one for one, the other one's not happy. So there's a lot of little tug of war here, but I think this could be a good opportunity not just to look at, hey, what we're proposing would create less traffic, but here's some possibilities of how we can also improve traffic in this area as well.
There's one specific move that I think is possible that I think would be great for Holiday Colony and Oceania and the region, which is the westbound on Sonesta at the intersection of Crandon right now has one egress lane. And there's an amazing library, and I interfaced a little bit with the county commissioner to ask her a question about the ability for us to be able to create a right turn only and maybe have the county dedicate and help us create a right turn only on Sonesta. So then when we exit Sonesta, we can make a right and then we have a lane to make a left. And so that's one simple move that's not costly, but we have to do a lot of coordination with Ray Baker, the head of the library, because he has that project, moving forward. And so we're in the planning stages. Kimley's created a section, and then we're going to be presenting it to Ray and his design team in order to make sure that that library moves forward with its same timeline, but at the same time can incorporate this provision to be able to create a right turn only outside of Sonesta. So that's one definite idea. And then there's a few other ideas that we've been talking to Key Colony about and the Master Association about certain opportunities for right turn onlys, potentially on the north side of Key Colony, to be able to have a resident only right turn out egress, which used to actually be there when there was a hotel there. But now, so there's an opportunity there for resident only that I think could also benefit Key Colony.
So that's pretty much for me. I just wanted to say one last thing is that, I think the building, again, is sensitive, is elegant, and I think you should keep going down that road. Key Biscayne, to me, is not a place where you need this in-your-face iconic buildings. So I think that this idea of integrating the nature and really looking at how it can respond to a lot of our needs and, kind of still bringing this history. It could even be with the names and the textures and the finishes that you're using. I think it's the right path, and I hope you continue in that path. But I know that there's still many more decisions that need to be made before we even get there. But I'm just going to stay on design ideas of what you guys presented today. So thank you.
So a couple things. First of all, guys, thank you. Amazing questions, really. I mean, for as thoughtful as the presentation was, it's always good to sit next to an architect. I'm learning a lot. This is a hockey stick learning curve for me. I wanted to acknowledge first everybody that's here. For those of you that don't know, this is kind of our first chance to try this new idea of having more interaction with the community and finding out what it is exactly that our residents want. It's funny, first conversation with David was actually by accident. Walked into a room, he was sitting there waiting. And I asked him, what are you planning on doing? And his first response, immediate response without thinking about it, is whatever this community wants. And so I've also had conversations with George before about how people, what are the differences between things that do well on Key Biscayne and don't? Whether it's a business, a development, it's those that involve the community and those that try to integrate with the community. We had a great conversation about the Silver Sands and what it meant to a lot of us. I grew up here too. I moved here in '83, so I've been around for a long time and had a lot of good times there. I think this presentation's been incredibly thoughtful. I think it flows really well with the community. I'm a huge fan of yourself, Mr. Tuze, and I've seen what you've done before, David. Projects have been amazing. The inspiration of Stiltsville for me is, a little bit of a double-edged sword, because I wish I could still go to Stiltsville, and I wish it would stay and remain and be there forever, but it's not. And so I think the direction that you're going in is exactly what this community would want if they wanted anything at all. There was a comment made earlier that maybe some people don't want anything to happen there, and that's fair. It's fair because we have traffic. It's fair because we have flooding. It's fair because we have too many people in some state of mind, right? Some people think, and I don't disagree. And so, you know, the idea that we're having this today and that so many people showed up, I mean, this is almost a record crowd. And this is a new process that we added because we thought we wanted to do more when it comes to these kinds of reviews. This is just the beginning. I don't know if anyone noticed, but we're looking at a CO potentially of 2029, right? Certificate of occupancy. So this is a long, long road. This is just the first step. And I think it's an incredible first step. And thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I don't really have technical questions. I do want to just remind everybody, incredibly thoughtful. What are our biggest problems? Stormwater. What are they being responsible about? And not even just for themselves, but for the people, the adjacent properties. I would invite you to speak to the other properties in Key Colony. It isn't just Tide Mart. Emerald Bay, right? Botanica, Ocean Sound, all of them. On the other side as well, it's very important, Oceania. You know, Oceania probably could have learned from some of the things that you're suggesting here. Maybe you can help them out, get up to speed. I think there's a lot of good work that can be done there as well. When we talk about the difference between maximum development and proposed development, we talked about changes. You talked about changes in code or requests for changes in code. Do we want a hotel? You know, I've had people come up to me and say, we would love to have an affordable hotel in Key Biscayne. Those days are gone. That won't happen. It won't be an affordable hotel. We're talking about a hotel that could cost close to $2,000 an evening. And so what is it that we want? I would suggest that everyone that's here, while a lot of things were said, it is being recorded. And so you have an opportunity to go back and really listen to what everyone has said here today. And David, put your name out there. Let people get out to you. Keep going out to the community. That was the conversation you had. That's all I really cared about. At the end of the day, we want what the residents want. We're just a representation of what they want. I'm a resident here too. I have been for a long time, and I'm gonna be here for a hell of a long more time. So just keep doing what you're doing. Everybody here, please listen to the video, go back, ask the questions. If you don't know, go find out. Go get yourself a architect and a friend, right, that you can ask the questions, or an engineer. Today I had a conversation with an engineer, a friend of mine. We're doing our 50-year certification of our building. He said to me, man, when you get the construction, when you're looking for a contractor, please bring it to me, because not every attorney knows how to deal with that. You need to get a construction attorney. So if you don't know, ask the questions, please. And then that's it for me, really. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll keep it short and conceptual in reacting to the presentation of the new Silver Sands, which I just decided is a good name. I think obviously the Silver Sands, as it has been since the Eisenhower administration, has been subsisting for a very long time. And, you know, I think this community has probably been on borrowed time in having to confront with the inevitable change. There is probably an element in the community, as you just observed, that wants nothing to change. The point about whether that's fair doesn't seem quite the right question to me. Whether it's understandable may be a better question, or a better conclusion. But the argument that someone expressed, the point that we're already overbuilt, I think is probably not quite right. The premise that we're crowded is obvious, but arguably, other than Ocean Club and Grand Bay, and if you go back far enough, Key Colony was a pretty massive chain. We've not built, we shrunk unit size other than Oceana, before Oceana. We diminished units, not built additional units. The consequence of all that we're contending with is because we're either the victims or the beneficiaries of our own folly. In other words, people have moved here. Previously, second or third or nth homers ultimately decided to live here, and they brought their, surprisingly, in many cases, young families. The point that we were talking about, Fernando mentioned this about wanting to grow community. I think it's an essential and intrinsic and valuable quality in Key Biscayne that there is a community in place here that lives here, that functions here. But of course, there's a tension between more people and worsening the problems of congestion, and et cetera. There are examples in the world of places that have been depopulated by second and third and homers. I think the famous case in the Mayfair section of London is something that a lot of people paid attention to, because essentially the service community in that community became so degraded that it simply evaporated, and the result was that Mayfair wasn't Mayfair. We're not going to have that problem. The problem that we worry about is the obverse of that problem, which is more and more and more congestion. But so change is inevitable, it's coming, and I think the conceptual question that will soon become practical before us, and all of us, is what's the best outcome? And to the extent that we can participate in guiding that outcome to respect property rights, which we must do, and to maximize the benefits for the community, that's what's before us. What's encouraging to me is, for an initial presentation, the level of detail, the attention to the community as it is, the degree of penetrating understanding of what really drives us. And you see the turnout here tonight, and the quality of the insights and questions, and the knowledge among, you know, the grassroots about what makes this community wonderful and why we want to be full-time residents here. I think it's impressive how, at this preliminary stage, the degree to which all of this thinking is rather baked in. And I appreciate that. I appreciate your insights relative to insurance implications and you know, the point that we've been wrestling with, I think to some degree successfully, but not maybe successfully or comprehensively enough, on base flood. We're going to have a serious conversation about that. We're probably going to, I know Brent will, and I probably will if he doesn't, ask for a visual on what it would look like if it was this or that. I think the same point with respect to the setback angle. And if that could include the linear feet as one compared to the other between Key Colony and Oceana, I think that would be a helpful graphic. The maybe the most interesting challenge that I think surfaced tonight for me is the moving of the trucks from the south to the north. And I would really encourage you to, the gentleman who spoke to this point has got a point. And I know there's a lot of consideration about that. So how to deal with that, it seems mitigatable to me, but a solution is going to have to be found to that. The immediacy of trying to help Holiday Colony is generous and thoughtful. The idea of deferring until our entire network supports an additional contribution to the ultimate comprehensive system is a long way off. And the idea of trying to help that condition now is a good one. The sandbar, you know, has come up 3 times tonight. I expected Bicycle Bill would be the first one to bring it up. The tension there is traffic, but there's freebie, and people walk in this activated, healthy community, and they ride their bikes, and there won't be public parking for any public aspect. I think that was made loud and clear. So we'll see whether this is a good idea or not, but obviously, to me, so far, there's some interest in restoring that amenity. I think that's about it for now. We've got a lot to process and work ahead of us, but it's a good start.
Okay. Let me say a couple things. I want to start with some specifics, and then I'll move to the general. I agree with my colleagues showing that 63% versus the 79%. It's a must. We really need to look at it better and understand it better. I was confused in having read the Kimley-Horn. This is an impact study based on existing methodologies. we didn't really do a traffic study yet.
Not yet. That
Okay.
document
Alright.
is to discuss what type of study we would agree to conduct, the parameters, which
Okay.
intersections, and all that.
All right, and I would recommend that you perhaps look at weekend traffic. Okay, this community's been bit a little bit by that, so we want to make sure that this project doesn't add to our issues in that area.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so include and incorporate that, please. I'm sure that you have great structural engineers, but I see two pools on the roof, and I think, unfortunately, of Surfside. Is that an issue from a structural issue?
Those are small plunge pools, and they're they're going to be encased in steel and dealt with. They're not at all in concrete the way the Surfside condition sadly was. It's not the same.
Okay, great. On the civil engineering piece, the 12 drainage wells, has this been done somewhere else? Because we're pretty good at putting floodwaters all over Key Biscayne, and I'm not sure if you fully comprehend what this means.
The 12 wells
Yes.
on site, or you're talking about the wells off site that were also?
No, the ones that you're talking about to
Yeah, that's-
capture and
yeah,
move the
so
water.
those wells, you basically drill them to about 100 feet deep, and you're discharging in salt water. So you're not really, adding water to the near surface. You're actually discharging once you hit a certain salinity, and usually in this area it's anywhere between 100 feet, 80 to 100 feet. That's when you find the very porous limestone that allows the lateral movement into the ocean. So we do not foresee it. It's never happened before. As a matter of fact, as part of the permitting process, we have to obtain a permit from FDEP where there has to be an assurance report that says that the casing that takes the water all the way to the 80 to 100 feet is very densely packed on the outside so that the water does not travel outside the casing. That's one of the requirements for the so-called assurance report. So it's done. We've done, I've been practicing for 34 years, and we've been doing this throughout the state, especially in South Dade, and we're doing that especially in coastal areas. In Miami Beach, we've done a ton of those for improvements, for water quality, for water quantity, and for all of the big developments that have proven to be working today.
Okay.
We, so that you know, our firm has over 75 years of experience in Miami-Dade County. I've been with the firm for all of my professional life.
You definitely don't look that old.
No, not yet. So yes, we understand it very well.
Okay. We talked about landscaping. Thank you. And it looks really good, but are we going over and above? Because one of the faults I think of our code is that we don't spell out enough, and obviously we want to make sure that you have both the shading and that you also have something that kind of hides the property in a good way, right?
Sure. Yeah, I think. But what's the question?
The question is, I think we are well above the code minimum on the
Oh,
landscape,
yeah,
and
for sure.
we're creating buffers
sure.
on north and south to shield the neighbors.
Right.
And as you can see, the whole concept is this lush tropical botanical garden that's being created. So it's
Right.
well above the code
Right.
minimum.
That's just, I want to hear that for the record. Okay.
Okay.
Parking underground, you initially have thought about 2 levels and you're rethinking. Would that mean then that you would give up some parking?
No, one of the ideas, DEP allows a basement that's designed to certain standards to be able to go beyond the coastal construction line. We did not design that, but we would like to consider working with the village if it was possible for us to be able to make the garage a little further east in order to be able to house all the parking on one floor instead of 2 floors. If the village would not like us to do that, we would need to have the 2 floors there.
Okay, and it's technically feasible?
Yes.
Because Ocean Sound did have some issues with it.
Our project, Grove at Grand Bay on Bayshore Drive, has a very similar condition, and we went 2 floors.
Okay, great. And going back to a point that my colleague Brett Moss made to Ann Tainer's comment, what I think is really meant by that is that we don't want Key Colony inundated with laborers parking on the swales there, which is the condition that happens all over the Key. But obviously you would have so many workers that would be. So I think we need to look, if this project's going to go forward, we need to look and have a way to maybe bus them in or find some other accommodation, because that number of workers, it'll be a difficult thing for our neighborhoods.
100%. We're currently developing something in the town of Bay Harbor that has very limited space, and we currently are actually busing the subs and staff.
Okay.
And when we buy out all the subcontractors, we provision and put in the agreements how the traffic and access is going to be.
And that they, so that we don't have them
Correct.
on that. Okay.
100%.
That would be great. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about the community benefits. I think we're a long way from getting to that. I think that there's issues that we've been talking about, whether it be from the school side or from the park concurrency side, that would need to be incredibly addressed. I think we're far from getting there. So that's something that would trouble me, and we need to be able to get to that point. And finally, I would say what some other people have been saying tonight. This is an opportunity for the community to look at this project and give us your feedback. This is a question about you have a condition where you have a hotel can go there as of right, okay, and it can be 150 feet tall. So the question to the community is going to be, are you okay with a community residential project, or are you wanting to insist on the hotel? So I think that at the end of the day might be the question that we'll be faced with. And that requires us to do some things that we normally don't ever want to do in terms of density. So with that, again, thank you very much to all of you that have come tonight. And those that have been watching, and hopefully more people will take a look at the video. It will become available. We thank David Martin for being here with us and being gracious to do this workshop. And let's get the ball rolling here, okay?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.